Amelia had always believed she had everything she ever wanted: a loving husband, a beautiful home, and two wonderful children. She had been with Jake for over 7 years. Their marriage seemed perfect on the surface, and even her closest friends envied their bond. But beneath the picture perfect exterior, something was hiding, and Amelia had no idea what it was. One lazy Sunday afternoon, Amelia was going through a box of old family photos in the attic, searching for a picture to frame for their anniversary. As she flipped through the dusty pages of their memories, one particular photo stopped her dead in her tracks. It was a wedding picture. Jake, looking dashing in his tuxedo, standing with a woman she had never seen before. Amelia's heart skipped a beat. She had never seen this woman in any of their family gatherings. She wasn't a friend, a relative, or even a colleague. But the worst part was the date written on the back: Jake and Sarah, 2006. Her world began to unravel. Was this some kind of mistake? Did Jake get married before her? Amelia felt dizzy. She had to confront him. When Jake came home that evening, the tension in the air was palpable. Amelia couldn't hide the storm brewing inside her. "Who is Sarah?" she asked, her voice trembling. Jake froze, a bead of sweat forming on his forehead. He tried to laugh it off, but it was a nervous chuckle. "What are you talking about, honey?" he replied, avoiding her gaze. Amelia slammed the photo down on the kitchen counter. "This! Who is she, Jake?" Jake sighed, and for the first time in their marriage, he seemed genuinely scared. He looked at her, his face filled with a mix of guilt and regret. "I never wanted you to find out," he muttered. Amelia's heart shattered as Jake began to explain the truth. Sarah wasn't just someone from his past. She was the woman he had married first, before Amelia. The marriage had been a mistake, a rushed decision made when he was young and reckless. But Sarah had been everything Jake thought he wanted until he met Amelia. He told her how they had married in a small ceremony full of hope and naivete, but soon found themselves trapped in a toxic relationship filled with lies and resentment. The marriage had ended in a messy divorce, and Jake had sworn never to speak about it again. But when he met Amelia, something about her made him feel whole again. He wanted a fresh start, and he thought if he buried his past, they could build a perfect future together. He didn't want to lose her, so he lied. He had never told Amelia about Sarah, and he had kept their past in the shadows. The truth was, Amelia had never truly known who Jake really was. "Why didn't you tell me?" Amelia asked, her voice barely a whisper. Jake looked at her with sorrowful eyes. "I didn't want to lose you, Amelia. I thought if you knew about Sarah, it would change everything. You'd think I was a different person." Tears filled Amelia's eyes as the weight of the years of deceit crashed down on her. All this time, she had built her life around a lie. Her heart felt heavy with betrayal, but the truth, no matter how painful, was something she couldn't ignore. "I loved you, Jake," she whispered, her voice breaking. "But I can't live with this. I don't know who you are anymore." The silence that followed was deafening. Amelia could feel the walls between them growing higher, the love they once shared turning into a distant memory. She had to make a choice: to stay in a marriage built on a foundation of lies, or to walk away, despite the love she still had for him. The next morning, Amelia packed her bags. She needed space. She needed time to heal. The thought of leaving Jake, the man she had shared so much with, felt impossible. But in the end, she knew that for her own peace, she had to break free. Jake watched in silence as Amelia walked out of the door, taking the life they had built with her. She wasn't the same woman who had walked into their marriage 7 years ago. She was stronger now, wiser, and no longer willing to ignore the truth. As the door closed behind her, Jake's regret consumed him. He had lost everything: his wife, his family, and the future he had dreamed of. The love he had betrayed could never be regained. And so, Amelia walked away, leaving behind 7 years of memories and a man who would forever be haunted by the secrets he kept buried for too long. Months passed, but the hurt never quite left Amelia. She moved into a small apartment on the other side of town, far from the life she had once known. The children were with her most of the time, and although the house was quieter, it had become her sanctuary, a place where she could rebuild herself. Every day was a struggle to reconcile the love she still had for Jake with the hurt that lingered deep within her. Jake, on the other hand, couldn't seem to move on. He tried to reach out to Amelia countless times, sending texts, leaving voicemails, even showing up at her doorstep. But she refused to see him. She needed space. She needed time to think. His days were spent in a haze of regret. He had let the best thing in his life slip through his fingers. The guilt gnawed at him. How could he have kept such a huge secret from the woman he had promised to love forever? Every time he looked at their wedding photo, a bitter reminder of his betrayal, he could barely breathe. One evening, as Jake sat alone in their old home, a realization hit him like a lightning bolt. He had been lying to himself for years, not just about Sarah, but about Amelia, too. He had taken her for granted, thinking love would simply be enough to keep their marriage together. But now he understood the true weight of love: honesty, trust, and transparency. He had failed her on every level. Jake knew that if there was even the slightest chance to make things right, he had to take responsibility for his actions. But how could he repair something so broken? How could he convince her to trust him again after everything that had happened? Meanwhile, Amelia had begun to heal. The pain of betrayal was still there, but it no longer consumed her every waking moment. She had taken up painting as a form of therapy, pouring her emotions into each brush stroke. She found solace in the quiet moments, the time she spent with her children, and the new friendships she had forged since her separation from Jake. One afternoon, as she sat in the park with her son, her phone rang. It was an unknown number, but something told her to answer it. Hesitant, she picked up the phone. "Amelia!" Jake's voice came through, raw and desperate. "Please, just let me explain. I need to tell you everything." Her heart skipped a beat, and for a moment she almost hung up. But there was a part of her that still longed for the closure she needed. "Jake," she said, her voice steady, "I don't think we have anything left to say. Please just hear me out. I've made so many mistakes, but I need to at least tell you the full truth. I owe you that much." She sighed, her hand trembling as she gripped the phone. "I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can hear your voice without remembering everything you've done." But Jake wasn't giving up. "I understand, and I'll respect whatever decision you make. But I need you to know that I will spend the rest of my life trying to make amends if you'll just give me one more chance." Amelia was silent for a long moment. There was a time when hearing his voice would have made her heart race with excitement. But now it just filled her with a mix of sorrow and longing. "Fine," she said quietly. "But we do this on my terms. We meet face to face and you'll be honest with me. No more lies." The next week, they met at a quiet cafe. the place where they had first shared coffee on their first date. The familiarity of the setting almost felt like a cruel reminder of the life they had lost. Jake arrived early, waiting nervously for Amelia. He had rehearsed his words over and over in his mind, but nothing could prepare him for the look on her face when she walked through the door. She was different, stronger, yet still haunted by the shadows of their past. She didn't sit down immediately. She stood across from him, arms crossed, eyes steady. "Talk," she said simply. Jake nodded, his heart heavy with regret. "I was wrong, Amelia. I've been wrong for so long. I was selfish and afraid. When I met you, I thought I could escape the mistakes I'd made with Sarah. I thought I could bury my past and start over. But that was a lie. I lied to you, and I lied to myself." Amelia remained silent, but the anger in her eyes told Jake that she wasn't ready to forgive him just yet. "I'm not asking for your forgiveness," he continued, his voice breaking. "I don't deserve it. But I need you to know the truth, every bit of it. Sarah wasn't the problem. I was. I wasn't the man I needed to be for her. And I wasn't the man I promised to be for you." He reached across the table, but Amelia flinched back. "I'm not asking for you to fix this, Jake. I need to know that I'm not making the same mistake twice. That I'm not going to lose myself again in someone else's lies." Jake nodded, tears welling in his eyes. "I'll spend my whole life proving to you that I can be the man you deserve, Amelia. But I understand if that's not enough. If you can't forgive me, I will walk away for good and I'll never contact you again. But I had to say it because I love you. I always have." Amelia stared at him for a long time. Her emotions were a whirlwind. Love, pain, doubt, and anger all tangled together. But something in Jake's voice told her he was truly sorry. Maybe, just maybe, there was a chance for them to rebuild, though it would take time. "I don't know if I can ever trust you again," she finally said, "but you've got one chance to prove you can be honest with me, no matter what, and that's all I can give you right now." Jake exhaled, the weight lifting off his chest. It wasn't a happy ending. It wasn't a fairy tale, but it was a start for both of them. The journey ahead would be difficult. It wasn't just about forgiving Jake, it was about rediscovering herself, reclaiming her trust, and deciding what she truly wanted for her future. The road to healing was long, but for the first time in a long while, Amelia could see a glimmer of hope on the horizon. The days following their conversation at the cafe were a blur of emotions for Amelia. She went through the motions of daily life, taking care of the kids, painting, spending time with friends, but there was a constant weight on her chest. The promise Jake had made to change was haunting her, a reminder of everything she had lost and everything she was still unsure of. She tried to focus on herself, to heal from the wounds he had left behind, but it wasn't easy. Every time she saw a photo of their family, or when her son asked about his father, the ache in her heart resurfaced. It had been 7 years. 7 years of trust, love, and memories, only to be torn apart by lies. Could he ever put the pieces back together? Jake, meanwhile, had not given up. He had respected Amelia's wishes to take things slow, and though it was painful, he understood. He had hurt her more deeply than anyone ever should. And now it was his turn to prove that he could be the man she had always deserved. Every day, he took small actions, reaching out, being open, honest with her about everything, no more hiding, no more lies. But it wasn't just about him anymore. Jake was trying to prove not only to Amelia that he could be trustworthy, but also to himself that he could be a better person. Every day was a new attempt at redemption. Yet, Amelia was still far from ready to let him back in. Trust wasn't something you could just rebuild in a day, and she knew that better than anyone. One Saturday afternoon, after weeks of silence between them, Amelia received a text from Jake. It was simple but thoughtful. "I've arranged something for you. I know you don't owe me anything, but I want to show you how serious I am. Let's meet tomorrow. Please, I'll wait for you at the old park. You'll know what to do." Amelia's heart raced as she read the message. She hadn't expected him to continue pursuing her with such conviction, and yet something in her stirred. She had agreed to take things slow, to give him a chance to prove himself, but this felt different. It was a gesture, an attempt to show her that he wasn't just saying the right things, but also doing the right things. The next morning, she woke up early, staring at her reflection in the mirror. She had come so far, found pieces of herself that she thought she'd lost forever. The question now wasn't about whether Jake could change. It was whether she was willing to let him back in. Did she even still love him? Or was it the idea of love that kept her holding on? As she walked through the park that afternoon, a familiar sense of nostalgia hit her. It was the same park where they'd spent hours as newlyweds, laughing and dreaming about their future. It was where they'd promised to stay by each other's side, no matter what. Jake was sitting by the old fountain, looking up as she approached. His face was filled with anticipation, but there was something else too: vulnerability. He had no idea how she would react. This was it. This was the moment where she could either walk away or give them a chance to start over. "Amelia," Jake said softly as she stopped in front of him, "I know I don't deserve this, but I need you to know I've been working every day to become a better man. Not for you, but for myself, for my kids, and for the person I promised I'd be. I'm not asking you to take me back today. I'm asking for the chance to prove that I can be better, for you and for the family we were supposed to be." He handed her a small folded piece of paper. She hesitated for a moment before unfolding it. It was a letter, written in his familiar handwriting. "Amelia, when I look back at everything we had, I realize I took you for granted. I didn't protect you from my mistakes. I didn't value what you were giving me. And I was selfish enough to think that love could be enough to cover up my lies. But I'm not that man anymore. I've been working on myself. I've been going to therapy. I've been rebuilding everything I destroyed. And now I want to rebuild us too, if you'll let me. This isn't about me asking for forgiveness. It's about showing you that I am capable of being the man you need. No overnight, not with empty promises, but with action and consistency. I can't take back the past, but I can create a better future, together, if you let me." Amelia read the letter twice, her hands trembling as she held it. There was no denying that the words were genuine, that Jake was trying. The question, though, was whether she was ready to try too. She had spent so much time building a new life for herself, one without the weight of his lies. But could she trust him again? Could she give him another chance? She sat down beside him on the fountain's edge. The air was still, the world around them quiet. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, Amelia finally said, "I can't promise I'll forgive you right away, Jake. And I can't promise we'll go back to how we were. But I'm willing to try. I'm willing to give us a chance. But only if you can keep showing me that you've changed. That you can be honest with me. no matter how painful the truth is. Jake's face softened, relief flooding through him. He nodded, a tear escaping down his cheek. I'll show you, Amelia. I'll show you every day for the rest of my life. It wasn't an easy decision. There was still so much to navigate, so much trust to rebuild. But for the first time in a long while, Amelia allowed herself to hope. She wasn't the same woman who had stood in front of Jake months ago. She was stronger now, wiser, and ready to take the next step, whatever it might be. And so, with small steps, they began again. It wouldn't be perfect, and there would be moments of doubt and uncertainty. But Amelia knew one thing. True healing comes not from forgetting the past, but from learning how to live with it and move forward together. Months passed since that pivotal meeting at the park, and the road to healing was neither smooth nor predictable. Amelia and Jake took it one day at a time, learning to trust again, learning to be vulnerable with each other. It wasn't always easy, and there were moments when old wounds resurfaced. But Jake's commitment and Amelia's newfound strength created a foundation for rebuilding their relationship. The changes were slow, but they were real. Jake continued his therapy, working on himself in ways he had never done before. He was patient and understanding, never rushing Amelia to forgive him, but always showing her through his actions that he was worthy of her trust. Amelia, on the other hand, found herself rediscovering the parts of her that had been buried in pain. She started to believe in herself again, not just as Jake's wife, but as the strong, independent woman she had become through the struggles. She started writing again, creating art that reflected her journey and sharing her healing with the world. Their children, too, began to see the changes. They could feel the tension lifting in the house, and though they still carried the scars of the past, there was hope once more in their eyes. The family began to spend time together, laughing, creating new memories, and slowly replacing the hurt with love. One afternoon, after a particularly peaceful Sunday family dinner, Jake sat down with Amelia on the porch, watching the sunset. It had become their little ritual, reflecting on how far they had come, what they had endured, and what they had learned along the way. Do you think we'll ever be the same as we were? Jake asked, his voice soft with uncertainty. Amelia took a deep breath, looking out at the horizon. No, she said, honestly, we'll never be the same. But that doesn't mean we can't be better. I've learned that love isn't about perfection. It's about finding strength in each other's flaws and growing through the pain. Jake nodded, his eyes filled with gratitude. Thank you for giving us a chance. I don't deserve you, but I'll spend the rest of my life showing you that I'm worthy of your love. Amelia smiled, her heart light. We don't have to be perfect, Jake. We just have to keep trying. And so, with a renewed sense of hope, they continued their journey together. The past would always be a part of them, but it no longer defined them. They learned that the true power of love lies not in the absence of mistakes, but in the strength to heal, to forgive, and to begin anew. Together, they faced the future with eyes wide open and hearts full of possibilities.